Good morning, dear students. So, yesterday we started our next chapter, that is the third level, written by Jack Finney. We have completed our two parts, two pages, and now on page number 2, last couple of lines I am repeating again. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree. So, the author, the commuter, what is the name of the commuter? That is Charlie. So Charlie thinks that Grand Central is growing like a tree. पेड़ की तरह ये बढ़ता जा रहा है. Pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. Roots की तरीके से इसमें से corridors, staircases, they are growing up. There is probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about feeling its way under the city right now. The narrator said that nobody could understand that there is a certain kind of tunnel which is taking someone to the other part and which is going under the city right now. On its way to Times Square and maybe another to Central Park, and maybe because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. These are the names: Times Square, name of the places, and maybe another to Central Park. I think that one route is going to Times Square, the other to the Central Park, and maybe because everyone used to take this Grand Central Station as an exit to go. And in other words, it's a way of escape. Maybe that's how the tunnel I got into. But I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. This thing also hide. He also hides from his friends. Who was that? That was a psychiatrist. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong. But I kept on walking. So the corridor through which he entered in and he was crossing, that was angling left. It was going to the left and slanting downwards. It was going downwards, and I thought that was wrong, but I kept on walking. I was thinking that it was going on some wrong way. I am not going out of the central railway station, that subway, and but still he kept on walking. All I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps. He could listen to the sounds, and those sounds were just of his own footsteps, means nobody was there. And don't pass. I didn't pass a soul. A soul means a person. So nobody was passing. I was the only one who was, entering into that corridor. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead, and that means some open space and people talking. Just then I heard some people talking over there. The tunnel turned sharp left. The tunnel turned to the sharp edged left side. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level at Grand Central Station. So I went down a short flight. Who is I? I is Charlie, right? So he went down a short flight of stairs. Stairs से होता हुआ नीचे, and came out on the third level. He entered, or he came to the third level of Grand Central Station. For just a moment I thought I was back on the second level, but I saw the room was smaller. Once he thought that he was on the second level, not on the third level, but which he saw over there, that was stunning one, that was completely a changed one from the second level. He saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates. There was a change, as that was on the second level, and over here there were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking, and the center booth, information booth, the inquiry booth, that was made up of wood and old looking. It was just old one looking. Means he was thinking or imagining himself on the third level, which was in the earlier times, older times, right? And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade. Eye shade means spectacles. He was wearing the green color spectacles and long black sleeve protectors. He was wearing some black sleeve protectors also. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Light was very dim and it was flickering as if it was of earthen pot, and the light was very dim. Then I saw why. They were open flame gas lights, and it is very much clear over here. It was open flame gas lights. These days we have inverters and many more things, right? But in earlier times, when there was short shortcuts of electricity, so we used to have the candlesticks or the gas lights, right? So it was is his imagination which was taking him to the older days, right? And he was just thinking that he had gone to the past years where it was the time of the gas lights. There were brass spittoons. Spittoons is the vessel for spitting into. Spit, just say some people used to take tobaccos or so and they spit, थूक देते हैं इधर उधर. तो earlier there were brass spittoons. Can you imagine it at the railway stations? At the railway stations you must have seen nowadays either it is of the plastic or just of the iron made, but it was the time when it was of brass. And across the station a glint of light caught my eye. एकदम से उसको थोड़ी सी रोशनी की चमक सी दिखाई देती है. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. A man took out his gold watch from his vest pocket. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. He took out his watch, he saw the time, and frowned. Frown means in some angry mood. He अपनी eyebrows को थोड़ा सा tilt कर लिया उसने. And he wore a derby hat. He was wearing a derby, a bowler hat, bowler hat. Bowler जो होते हैं जैसे in the cricket, the bowler used to wear a hat. So he was wearing a derby hat, a bowler hat, a black button suit. Four-button suit he was wearing with tiny lapels. Lapels means a part of coat, front folded back. A part of coat, front folded back. पीछे की तरफ जैसे हम ऊपर कवरिंग कर लेते हैं, स्लीव्स को ऊपर चढ़ा लेते हैं, कवर अप ऊपर कर लेते हैं, टर्न कर लेते हैं, right? So he was wearing that and he had a big black handlebar mustache. So उसने थोड़ा सा अपनी बड़ी सी उसकी ब्लैक कलर की मुस्टच थी, मूछें थी, right? Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 something. Everyone was wearing as if it was the time of 18s or 19s. 90s, 18 or 90s. I never saw so many beards I never saw so many beards, sideburns, and fancy mustaches in my life. इतने beards और mustaches means मूछें और ये सब चीज़ें मैंने कभी नहीं देखी थी अपनी लाइफ में. A woman walked in through the train gate. Just then he saw a woman entering into the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeves and skirts in the top of her high buttoned shoes. So lady को उसने देखा who was wearing just skirts, beautiful skirt and leg of mutton sleeves and high buttoned shoes. Back of her, out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive. Locomotive, a very small, career and lives locomotive with a funnel-shaped stack. And then I knew locomotive engines, which used to, work on smoke. पहले भाप के इंजन हुआ करते थे, so that was over there. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy. अब ये सारी चीज़ें जो थी वो पुराने टाइम की लग रही थी. लोकोमोटिव इंजन, राइट, and the dressing sense which the man and the woman were wearing, the gold watch, all these things were showing him that as if he had entered into some 18th century or the century 19th century. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy. To make it, sure, he went to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. Stack, we have done it earlier also. What does this mean? Piles. So, newspapers were there. So, he took out that newspaper. It was The World. What was the name of the newspaper? The World. And The World hasn't been published for years. And this was the newspaper which was not in fashion during this time. It was earlier one. The lead story said something about President Cleveland. Again, he is referring to the President James Grover Cleveland, right? He was the President of America, and he was in the 22nd and 24th, means 1893 to 1897. He was the President of America. So it was the time when he was over there. I have found that front page since in the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. So underline the name of the newspaper, The World, and it was printed June 11, 1894. I turned towards the ticket windows, knowing that here on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go in the year 1894. See, he wanted to go in that period of time. So he went straight to the ticket window so that he could purchase the tickets to go to some place where he wanted to go in 1894. Right? He also wanted to take Louisa with him. And I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. Underline it. This is the place where he wanted to go back. And it was the place where his grandparents used to live. Right? So it was in his memory that it was a pleasant and good, place. So he wanted to go back. Again, it is showing that he wanted to take a refuge from the reality. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town still, with big old frame houses. Now he is defining how was that place. With old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roofs the streets. So beautiful place with the old frame houses, wooden frame houses, and huge lawns, bade bade lawns, and the trees and their branches used to meet with each other on the overhead and the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long. You know it very well that the summer evenings are long, and in 1894, because they used to have a pleasant time, so the evening time was very twice as long, and people sat out on their lawns. Nowadays we are busy in WhatsApp or some other things, and we don't love to talk to each other. But that was the time when people used to talk to each other in open lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans, having the hand fans in their hands, and talking to each other with the fireflies all around. Fireflies, जुगनू, right? तो ये सब उड़ रहे हैं in a peaceful world. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off, and World War Second over 40 years in the future. See, this is the important things that was going on over here. It was the time First World War still 20 years off, right? And World War Second over 40 years in the future. अभी वर्ल्ड वॉर फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर को हुए हुए 20 ईयर्स हुए हैं, और वर्ल्ड वॉर सेकेंड जो है अभी उसको होने में 40 ईयर्स है फ्यूचर में, अभी 40 साल बाद होनी है अभी सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर। मतलब इट वॉज द टाइम बिटवीन दोज फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर एंड द सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बीच का टाइम है। आई वॉन्टेड 2 tickets फॉर दैट, एंड आई वॉन्टेड टू टेक 2 tickets. द क्लार्क figured the fare. He told me the fare to go over there. He glanced at my fancy hatband. उसने मेरे fancy से hatband को देखा, but he figured the fare, and I had enough for 2 coach tickets one way. I was enough money to give him to get the tickets. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me. When I took out the money and gave him to get the tickets from this side to the Galesburg, Illinois. So he stared at me. He nodded at the bills. Bills means the money. So जैसे ही उसने पैसे देखा तो वो बोला कि no, this is not that and the money, mister. ये money नहीं है. He said, and if you are trying to skin me means if you want to, make some theft on me, or मतलब you want to make me a fool, so you won't get very far, so you won't be able to go any far. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him, of course the money was old style bills. So I was fascinated to see that the money which he was carrying in the drawer, that was completely changed. It was the older one, half again. It was on in olden times, right? Half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different looking. जो आजकल हम यूज कर रहे थे उससे बिल्कुल डिफरेंट थी. I turned away and got out fast. There's nothing nice about jail even in 1894. And the man was just asking to take him to the jail. He was calling up some other policeman. So I rushed, because it was not good to go to jail, whether it was the time of 1894 or it was the time of modern world. So that's what we have here. I, I think it will be enough.